Hello, Facebookers, I'm back. Um, and shaking my phone again, as usual, because I'm uncomfortable. Give me 2 seconds. So, um, if there's noise in the background, it's because I'm at my friend's house and he's got the TV on. So I've got my mic in, because I'm hoping that blocks out that noise. Anyway, hello, Ladrin. Hello, Alexandra. Hello. So I'm just about to head out in London. I'm going to go and meet some clients and friends of mine today, which will be fab. But I wanted to share something that has been bubbling and brewing with me for a long time. Hello, Isham. I know, a long time no talk. Like, I don't know, 30 minutes ago. Oh, good. You can't hear the TV. Awesome. I don't mind the plainest TV, but it's just when you're doing a live stream, it's not the best. So anyway, I've not been on here for a few days. I can't remember the last time I was on. It feels like ages. It probably isn't, but I've probably feeling like that because I've been processing a lot of my own internal information. And there was something that came up, right? Sorry, Alexandra, I'll get back to you in a minute. There's something that came up today in a meditation where I was really, noticing. Oh, I'm back. The Wi-Fi must be bad in this room. It keeps cutting off. I'll try and keep going. So noticing that layers within the self, layers within me that I'm meeting and trying to meet authentically and honestly and all of that. But in the meditation today, what happened was I noticed that my head is very much on telling me that I need to do things. So things that I haven't done, because I really literally took a day to myself yesterday where I didn't do anything that I was meant to do, really. I actually did do bits, but I didn't do the fullness of what I intended on doing, basically. So I noticed that the busyness of my mind trying to get me to take action on some things, which is fine. But the other thing I noticed is, which is something I do a lot, which is contemplating on emotions, my own emotions, other people's emotions. Because really a lot of the work that I do, a lot of it is mindset, but it's actually a meeting of emotions in the body. The inner child work that I talk about is all meeting emotion. And, even the inner parent and all of that, there's still an element of emotion. And I was saying to someone the other day about how we have labeled emotion. We have labeled emotions like, anger or determination or love or whatever. And that can be different, slightly different for everybody. And also the main thing that I was trying to get across is actually the feeling comes first. The feeling happened first, not the words. And so we should listen to the emotion first, not what we're trying to make of them, if that makes sense, right? Because emotions are all valid. They're all trying to give you a piece of information. Rather than trying to squash them, we really should be looking at them and asking what they're trying to tell us. We've become ignorant to emotion. We've become ignorant of what the emotions mean because we've labeled the emotions, and then we basically try with our mind to decipher what the emotion is saying. And usually most of us are not really, I was going to say academically adept, but it's not. It's emotionally adept. We're not, what I'm trying to say is we haven't really learned how emotions are communicated. Right? And so we haven't learned how emotions are communicated in the body. Most of us are diving up into our heads rather than diving down into soul and inner children and all of this. And so, it was just interesting to look at that and to look at my own emotions and meeting other layers that maybe haven't been listened to for a while. And also, right, so aside from the meeting of the self and emotion, because you must do that in order to fully know yourself, right? I'm not just talking about using emotions as a way to communicate with other people in relationships, for example. But we're looking at the self first But then we have to look at how we communicate with other people about our emotional world. Now, you can't do that if you don't really know what's going on. Now, some interactions are going to open up a dialogue to other parts of self, right? Some interactions are going to open up the dialogue of pains and wounds and fears and all of that stuff, okay? All of that juicy stuff that a lot of us go, oh shit, I'm terrified of looking at. But some dialogues with some people are going to open up that. Some dialogues with people are going to open up triggers of anger, and whatever is going on is fine in a sense, right? Depending on how you deliver it. But what I'm really, really, really interested in today, right? And maybe I'm kind of waffling a bit, but what I'm really interested in today is, are you being an emotional entrepreneur? Meaning, are your emotional capabilities still in the land of transaction? Are your emotional, givings still transactional? Are you trying to get something instead of just giving something, right? And in this meditation, really for me, what I was looking at is, what is it I want to feel about myself? Who is it I want to be? And I notice a part of me that is very deep and very wide. That's what it feels like. It feels like a part of me that could be overwhelming for a lot of people. I can love really big, really hard. And, I could get really I kind of see it like, I don't know if it's the Scorpio moon in me, but kind of like that thing of as deep as the ocean and wide as the ocean. And I'm really only playing with a little bit of that at the moment. And what the meditation, what this thing that speaks to me in meditation was saying, that's actually what I want to feel. I want to be able to do that and feel that without restriction. And in order for me to do that, the question was, what is it I need to do? Where do I need to go with that? Now, the fear that comes up behind that is, if you give all of that, you've done that in the past, then there's potential for you to have no boundaries at all. Okay? So there's a level where there's the meeting, of the boundary, the balance of that. And my desire to be that giving person without becoming transactional, right? As in, I can only give this person so much love because they're only meeting me at this place. And I'll give this person more of that because they are willing to meet me in more of their emotional transaction. So I just wanted to have the conversation with you guys because, I like to be as real as I possibly can and to share this information because I think everyone is going through it. And it's definitely linked to the inner child work that I do. And it's just that meeting of other layers of self, right? So I don't know whether one of you guys want to share, any of you want to share about your understanding of where you're being transactional, because I swear, I think all of you will understand that we all do this in relationships, right? As soon as you step into a relationship with someone, if you have wounds, which I think all of you do somewhere, right? Abandonment or having a lack of healthy boundaries, which I certainly have had in the past, then those things are going to start speaking to us. They're going to start saying, honey, are you checking yourself? Are you checking your boundaries, right? Are you just about to do that thing again where you open yourself up fully without checking who the other person is, right? That bit, is okay. But the worry is, I guess, is that becomes another block, right? So I feel like I'm still shaking my phone. Yeah, that it becomes like another block to another experience, a more open experience, right? And really, when you look at being loving, right, rather than just love, because I don't like really just talking about the word love, because that can mean anything to anyone, right? Everyone has a different interpretation of what love is. So let's talk about being loving, okay? And okay, again, I'll share my experience. So again, in the meditation, not meditating to the point of not thinking, you can tell. So lots of stuff coming through about this ability to be loving as much as I want to be, and looking at the boundaries and how to navigate that. And what came up was, you know, who have I been able to love to the fullest where it hasn't been to my detriment? Okay. So as I said, unhealthy boundaries in the past led to relationships where I fully loved unconditionally, which meant that I loved to the point of destroying me. That's not love, because that's not self-loving, right? You're not even focused on yourself in that situation. You're so focused on the other person, on what they want. Maybe they're demanding, or the fantasy that you're running. So when I ask the question, obviously the person that comes up for me is my daughter. Now there are still some questions around this, which I will share with you. So in the sort of conversation with myself about my child, I'm looking at how I love her, right? I love her unconditionally. You know, I think to the point where I'm annoying. And we do have conversations about me being an annoying mummy because, you know, we make a joke out of it. I'm not like putting myself down. We make a joke out of it because, you know, I'm like super affectionate. So like I love physical touch. I love conversation. I love quality time, right? Anyone who's done the love languages, or if you haven't, please do your love languages because it will help you to no end. I think actually I have like, all of them are quite high apart from gifts. I don't find gifts a way for me to experience love. Like I think it's a beautiful thing, but it wouldn't, if you gave me a gift, right? You know, Ladrin, if you gave me a gong, I would go, that's nice, but it wouldn't make me feel loved, right? I don't have gifts as that thing. So anyway, that's a helpful tip. But for me, right, I'm like the constant touching, kissing, saying I love you mother. And being present is more important than presence. Is important, not presence, yeah. Well, for some people, presence seems to be quite high on their lists. And I find it really funny because it's just not on mine. I mean, like I said, you know, I'm not going to say no to a gift. I still appreciate it, but it wouldn't activate I feel loved in my body. It just wouldn't. So anyway, so I'm looking at how I do that, and I'm looking at how my child is, right? My child, Ella, she does not say I love you easily. It's a real struggle. It's awkward. She's just weird and sort of that young teenagery thing about it. It's not like little child that goes, I love you, mummy. You know, it's not like that. She can't do it. It's really awkward. She's not the one that's going to come and hug me and cuddle me, you know, probably because I'm already doing it to her. She doesn't have the need. But, you know, she will do that if she's tired, or if she's maybe not feeling very well. But that's about it. She doesn't come and do that. She doesn't say I love you. She doesn't, what else? What else do I do? Yeah, she doesn't even like, I love connecting through conversation, as you can tell. And you don't have to do that, but I enjoy that. And I feel like this is a good one. When people share their intimate world with me, that makes me feel loved. Which might be weird, but I know that other people have that thing, right? Alison Armstrong talks about this, I think. So when a person shares their deepest, darkest stuff, see, there's the Scorpio moon, I feel connected, right? If you are not really sharing stuff with me, like you're not really telling me about your world, like I actually don't even have to share about my world, which is a weird thing. But if you are open, you're open to me, you're being vulnerable with me, and you're showing me like your internal dialogue, I love that. And I will try to help you the best I can, because I guess that's my love. That's the way that I love. Like I go and help people, right? I go and talk to them. I try and get them to see past their edge, you know, and step out of their box and all of that. So that for me makes me feel loved, right? But Ella doesn't do that. Ella is quite the opposite in the sense of she's not mature enough yet to be able to communicate exactly how she's feeling. There's awkwardness there. She is getting better, but you know, she's little. She's only 11. And I know at 11, I was terrible at communicating how I felt. I didn't feel like I could. There wasn't really a safe space for me to go. Now, I make myself a safe space, but that doesn't mean to say someone's ready, right? And so anyway, I'm telling you all of this to show you, you know, I'm being open about my stuff and my realizations around it. And one of the thoughts was, okay, so I love my child that way. Right now, I love her like this, and she accepts it. You know, she's not, well, most of the time, right? She's not telling me to get off and stop kissing her or whatever. She's not doing that. She accepts me as I am, and we laugh because of me being a crazy mama. So we do that thing. But the thought was, at some point, will that change? At some point, will she become different? Will she become an adult? And will that change? Will I become more transactional, right? Because now you're an adult, you're not giving me back. Or will it still be the same because she's my child? And if it becomes transactional, then I need to check myself. But if there's the ability to love a person, just that one person, say it's one person in your life, that way, it might even be an animal. You might have a dog or a cat or whatever that you love this way, where there's no expectation on what comes back, and you're just able to be that hugely loving ocean, right? That thing in me that feels like the ocean, like so wide and so deep, and just like, yeah, I don't know, like I can't even explain the feeling. I kind of wish that I could give you guys a visual, because it's like the visual in my head is like crazy. It really is. But if we have the potential to be that way, or I have the potential to be that way, can I be that way with everybody to that depth and that width? And if I can, well, actually, do I even want to be? You know, do I want to be? So anyway, that's that part of the thing. Sorry, and I can read Andy's now. I've missed Alexandra's. Hold on. I'm not headstrong and really needs a journal. I felt I finally started to ball. Oh, you're journaling. Keep journaling. Andy says, same here. I love to hear people's vulnerability. It shows people are comfortable with you in expressing their true selves. It's always good to respect others that express in a different way. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I absolutely make it one of my practices has been for a long time to be that open. You know, maybe I'm judging myself at the moment. I don't know. But whenever I have a call with a client, even if I've never met them, I've met them, right? As in, I meet them as if they're someone that I know. They're someone who, and I really genuinely feel like I'm not making that up. Like if you want to do a soul session with me, I meet you like I know you. I'm not like creating a persona so that you feel accepted. I really honestly feel you. I really honestly feel like I know you in that moment, even if we've never met before. And that is a gift, you know, that I have. And it means that I can connect with people and I can feel their stuff and I can intuit things because I feel like I know them already. You know, and actually even saying I feel like I know you doesn't even make sense, because it's like I know you already. And I can't possibly know every single part of you, but I know the essence of you. That's what it feels like. But the thought around being transactional was really, like, aside from sharing my story on, you know, realizing bits of me are trying to be activated and questioning boundaries and the ability to love in the expansive way that I want to, you know, be, is this thing about being emotionally transactional, right? So most of you will notice in relationships, and, you know, I know Ladron, we've spoke a little bit about this, where when you get into a relationship, there's other layers that happen, right? Different layers in intimate relationship than, you know, like I was explaining with my child. Like, I don't have a block to loving her. But because we are layered up with wounds, there are certain layers that we hit that go, oh, hold on a minute, are we safe? Hold on a minute. Is this okay? Hold on a minute. Am I attracted? Hold on a minute. Is this person really who they say they are? Which is one of mine because I lived with a person who wasn't, right? So, or basically showed this shiny face to the world and wasn't who he said he was when he was at home. So I'm looking at all of that, right? And what happens is as soon as one of our triggers is hit, we become transactional, right? Or we have the potential to become transactional, let's say. So say, for example, I'm trying to think of an example. Say, let's use gifts, right? Because I don't understand it, but I'm just going to make up a thing around it. Say your thing is gifts, and say you were given gifts as a child, right? Say your father was never around, and instead of him, I'm picking guys because that's the old paradigm, and that's what happened to a lot of people. But say dad was always working, and instead of actually being present with you and giving you emotional support and playing with you and really sharing an emotional bond with you and trying to understand you on an intellectual level and on a feeling level, you didn't get that. You were emotionally unsupported by him, and instead he bought you stuff. So he showed you that actually how he loves is by buying you his love, right? His value is monetary. And so you learn as a young child that actually the way that, men love, perhaps, right? Maybe as a woman, perhaps men love by giving you gifts, or perhaps your mother did it, right? It doesn't matter who in this scenario, just picking a thing, right? And so, you learn that. And so when you get into relationships as an adult, if your partners don't buy you things and they maybe have, they maybe just say that they love you. Maybe their love language is words of affirmation, and they say that they love you, but you can't see it because there's not this gift giving, then you decide to become transactional, meaning that you back off, right? If you're not giving me this, then I'm not going to give you that, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is they want. And so now you're in transaction. You're not in love. That's not love. Like, you're completely in transaction because you have closed. You're not open anymore. That thing that I keep saying, the expanse of the sea and the depth of the sea, and just to be that loving person. You're not being that anymore because now there's fear has stepped in front of you. And okay, let me come back to fear. Someone remind me, because fear is not necessarily a bad thing. However, if it's from a wound, like a trigger, fear will come in and stand at the gateway. I'm always talking about the ego coming in to protect your inner child, right? And so it will stand there and, to protect that part of you that's saying that you're now unlovable, right? Whether it's abandonment or unworthiness or not being seen, they're all the same shit. They're all the same thing. They all come down to being unlovable. So yeah, where are you guys doing that? Where is your love suddenly becoming unlove within, and now you are in transaction rather than being loving, rather than connecting, right? And I see this pattern a lot with clients and a lot just generally in the world with friends and family, and I've obviously looking at myself, where transaction has started to happen, and as soon as a transaction is in play, you are disconnected. Like, the connection's disappearing, not only from the other person that you're in relationship with, but also from yourself. You start to lose sight of what your connection was about in the first place. And so it's really interesting to watch these dynamics within self and within other people and look at, wait a minute, what button has been hit? Because now the energy has shifted and now we're in transaction. Somewhere there's a transaction going on, and it can be very subtle or it can be really in your face. But generally, I think most people who are in relationships can feel it. You can feel it when something happens and you're suddenly in transaction. You can feel that, right? It's not comfortable. It's not nice. It's definitely not a loving space to be in. So I personally, I don't know if I've totally felt into myself yet, to figure out about the boundaries that are healthy and the ones that come from fear. But I'm definitely working through that at the moment, through a few situations that have happened. And I just really want to share with you my musings on how wide and deep are we able to love? How vulnerable are we able to be? And are you being transactional when it comes to that because of fear creeping in? Oh, no one reminds me about fear. So the other bit about fear isn't necessarily a bad thing. Fear carries like two sides of a coin. One is the protection of the inner child, but the other part is it's not really fear, but it's like I want to say a byproduct of fear. I think fear is a byproduct of ego, because the ego actually in its adult form is your protector in the correct way. Let's say when it's developed fully. Okay, so let's say ego is not a bad thing. So this is the two sides of ego. Ego, when it's undeveloped and a bit emotionally immature, will react to a situation and maybe back off and disappear from a situation, maybe hide from a situation, maybe argue in defense about a situation. That's that side of ego. The other side of ego, when it's fully developed, is the one that is present, right? It doesn't run from a situation. It will hold itself accountable. It will acknowledge the inner child that is frightened, and then send an invitation for connection again and reintegration and all of that. Okay, so that's all just come through me. So that's quite clear to me, that there is a side of your ego that is healthy when it comes to setting boundaries. It's looking out for you at your highest potential, looking out for you at your highest capability, at your deepest lovability. Maybe I got my answer now. So it's looking out for you in that sense. And so really the lesson is, whilst my stomach gurgles, I haven't eaten today. The lesson is really that we have to discern whether our inner child is making us transactional because we're in fear, or whether we are being prompted to set healthy boundaries right now at the beginning, because a healthy boundary in a relationship is a foundation, right? If you don't set healthy boundaries for yourself, you will end up in relationships where you just get taken along and swept up, and then you end up being transactional because no one has laid the foundation of how you communicate. No one has learned the love languages. No one, whoever, right? The people that you're in relationship with and yourself are not really trying to understand how to meet the other person, right? And for me, meeting the other person absolutely includes understanding their vulnerabilities, questioning it, like being inviting to that conversation. Like you can't have a conversation with someone who isn't open to your vulnerability, who doesn't ask you those questions, who doesn't want to know you in that way, who maybe if you're doing that to someone, right, if you're doing that to somebody else, then you can't really know them. How can you know them if you don't really know their stuff, like their vulnerabilities and their joys and their lows and whatever? So please get to know yourself, and then please, do the work that I'm doing right now. I'm going through it on a whole other level. Get to know yourself and invite people in who you feel actually wants to get to know you. And so in doing so, when you invite people in who really want to get to know you on the deepest level, like they're there and they have that ability to sit in that space where they are ready. I think, like I said, I think that's one of my gifts. Whenever I do work with a client, I'm ready. I'm ready to hold the space for whatever comes up. Whatever comes to a session is meant to be in a session, and I'm ready to be there. And so you have to be willing to do that in your own intimate relationships, or relationships with anyone, really, with your family or friends. Be ready to be there, and then be ready to check yourself. The moment that your fear kicks in, your abandonment or your whatever comes up. I always mention abandonment because it's usually that in relationships, right? Your unlovability. When that comes up, and then ask yourself, well, is this person meeting me? And if I'm really honest, am I meeting them? Like, what is it that's needed? Because I'm always saying that, the relationship itself between any people is an entity of its own. So you have to really look at what that entity, what that relationship is asking for, rather than just what you are asking for, right? As in your gifts, right? So you might be like, well, you don't give me gifts, so you don't love me, so I'm just going to shut off now and I won't tell you that I love you anymore. And that will hurt your relationship, rather than saying, can we have a conversation about what this relationship needs? Because I feel like you're not meeting me, like you're not here, you're not present with me, I don't feel the connection. And then having the invitation of how that connection is sustained, because people do this thing where if they feel, do you know what, I will do a live stream on rejection. I will do a live stream on that, but I won't talk about it now. But there is a level of very subtle parts that happen when we're rejected that send like information through the body, and we usually go into default reactions that we did in our childhood. That's usually what happens. We usually, or beliefs that we have around what that means, right? So mine would have been, if I felt emotional, I would go and hide in my room. That would be my thing, probably. I would have sat in it, and instead of sitting and processing, because that's healthy, I would have sat in the emotion and let it take over me and been really woe is me. As a child, that's what I would have done. Because I didn't know how to navigate this world of Scorpio moon. Right? Now, some other people, like you guys, I don't know what you do, right? But you might get angry and start blaming, right? My ex did that. That was his default. It was to fight. His reaction was to, I don't feel loved, so I'm going to fight with you. Or your thing might be to get angry and be really huffy and not talk to someone for days, right? You might be like fuming person in the room. When you walk in, you can feel the energy. That might be you. So whatever you do as a default based on now your transactional relationship, you are, you're running the default of becoming your inner child, rather than witnessing your inner child and, really honoring your inner child by stepping up as the parent and having the conversation, right?